ever feel overwhelmed by the maze of SEO and wonder if there's a better way to rise in search rankings? Today, we're peeling back the layers on why SEO often seems intimidating and how to do it effectively. First, there's the misconception that SEO is about gaming the system. Those times are over. Then there comes the frustration of waiting for results that take time, unlike instant paid ads. And finally, the struggle to keep up with the algorithm changes while maintaining a clear foundation. Here to guide us through this is Barb Davids, a digital marketing and SEO expert who has moved from corporate managing to helping freelancers gain control over their digital asset. Barb focuses on making SEO comprehensible and sustainable without shady practices. In this episode, we'll delve into SEO myths, explore practical strategies, and discuss Barb's journey through digital nomading. You'll walk away with fresh insights to boost your business online presence and strategies you can implement right away. Oh yeah, we are on a roll with our fun episodes and amazing ladies. Not even a question, right? I'm not going to bring you any kind of boring ladies onto the podcast. I wouldn't want to talk to them. So why would you want to listen to them? And today I'm bringing you Barb Davids, who will tell us a little bit about how she's running her business, how she got here, but also how you can be better with SEO and stop dealing with these shady, crappy SEO companies coming out of web design. I've seen a lot of companies be around that in a past life. Oh my God, back in the days. I suddenly feel old. I get sidetracked. Scroll moment. That's what you get. Bob, I have a favorite question on the podcast that pretty much every of my guests now has to go through. Little Bob, did she have a vision? Did she know what she's going to become when she grows up? Or did Big Bob just follow? That was, guys, Germans never learn tall or grown up. We always call everybody big. Sorry about that. Grown up, Bob. Did you just follow the yellow brick road, or did you know you're going to be in something tech and SEO when you grow up?
Yeah, I had no clue what the F I was going to do, really.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you're the first one that says that, because it's like, I didn't know what the hell I'm going to do.
Oh, that's funny. No, so I think it's kind of funny that you said yellow brick road, because that actually makes me think about how I'm very intentional now. So I feel like I'm following a yellow brick road now. But when I first, thought about the idea of having like a career or doing something, I didn't plan on going to college. And I thought I wanted to be a businesswoman with a briefcase, walking in high heels, walking across the skyline. Because I live in Minneapolis right now. And this is where I lived when I was in high school. That's all I wanted to be, was a businesswoman. But I think it was only to boss people around, not necessarily for any other purpose.
I freaking love it.
Yeah. So, and I got that, like I did that. I was in corporate. I technically, quote, bossing around, as a manager, you have to tell people what to do or like guide them or, whatnot. And I got there and I was like, I don't think so. Nope, didn't really care for it. So I wanted to be out on my own. And one day I was like, I'm tired of just sitting in a walled area. I kept walking into an office, walking in with walls. And I always wanted to like have windows or be in a corner office or something like that. I never got quite that far, right? But I was always in the offices with walls. And so I wanted windows. And I think it's kind of funny because like now I can have windows because I can work anytime, anywhere, which is really what the point was. So, and then that kind of snowballed at about the same time. I'm kind of giving you the long story, Evie.
Oh, I love the long story because those are the hidden gems that you often don't get to hear.
Yeah. So then I ended up about the same time I was starting to do photography. I was a professional fitness photographer, and mostly because I liked fitness. Like I run a lot and I wanted to stay, like, if you're photographing it, you kind of stay in that industry. It keeps you pumped up. Mm-hmm. So I was doing a lot of like bodybuilding, body competition people, female and male. And then some models, but mostly like in personal trainers. So I was doing kind of that kind of stuff. And then I was going to networking events with other photographers, and they're like, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I had already been in digital marketing for a number of years. There's a whole nother story of that one too. But they were like, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I'm like, I don't even know. Like, it's so funny because you go to try to figure something out for a specific industry, specific purpose. And I do feel like it's very confusing. And when I was in corporate, I had to hire out for people to help me. And I got so frustrated when they would not tell me what they were doing because I had to report to people. And they were like, well, we're monitoring. I'm like, okay, but tell me like what? And I think it's kind of stopped doing that a little bit with people, with companies. I think it's getting better, but there's still a lot of it out there where you get people who tell you one thing, but you're not really sure if it really works for you or not, or if they're just trying to sell you. And it's hard to know until you get into it. So let me stop there because that's going into probably another section instead of like where little Barb started.
But I'm like, you have a point there. I'm like, that's exactly what I also experienced with this idea of web design and SEO. I often felt like a lot of clients that came to me, it was that whole ball and chain thing where I'm like, they potentially don't even have full access to their website. They have no idea where their URL is hosted. And it's like, I'm like, how can you not have at least access? You should be owning your stuff. No web designer has to host your website on their account. So,
or at least have the login. That would be the other thing. Like a lot of times when I work with clients, and I encourage even people that I don't work with, like set it up yourself and then give people access if you need to, but make sure that you can have it because a lot of the times, like sometimes you can't get it back. Like I hear horror stories about people when they give everything away for SEO and then the company says, or they disagree, they don't want to go with the company anymore. And then they take back stuff they did, or they don't give them their login. And it's heartbreaking actually.
There was a lot of websites that I rebuilt because the client didn't get their website back.
Oh, ouch. Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, oh, I hear you. So how did you get from that social media piece and everything to what you were doing now?
So when I started working, I wanted to work on my own, and I really thought I was going to do it for photographers and stay in the digital marketing field. I didn't quite know when I first started where I wanted to land inside of digital marketing because there's so many different avenues you can take technically if you want to get really specific about it. And I ended up landing in SEO and content marketing just because I just found it fascinating. There is kind of a rhythm to it, but there's also an art to it. And it's something that people don't spend a lot of time with because they're unsure of it. It's confusing. They think it's techie, but it's not all techie. And so I felt like I can speak geek, like I can do the geek to the non-geek pretty well, I think. And that's where that sort of came in. So I landed sort of on SEO and content marketing just because it was fun, I feel like. And I know that most people don't equate SEO with fun, but anyway.
It can be to some point. I'm like, I'm about that, right? I think the public perception of SEO being so difficult is because a lot of us have been told you got to play the game, but playing the game actually just, and correct me if I'm wrong, playing the SEO game pretty much just means speak to the human that's reading your stuff.
Yeah, I think, well, that also because that's been pushed a lot. I think in the very beginning, there were technical things you could do, and Google's gotten smarter about outsmarting the people who are trying to outsmart them. But
there were some fun stories we both read with keyword stuffing and all this stuff. Right?
Yes, exactly. And I don't think, I think I did have a point about that, but I think the part about it being techie and writing for somebody, that the thing that it's not, that's what I wanted to touch on, was that it's not instantaneous. And I think we always feel like everything needs to happen like right now. And it's just not like that. It can be, but for the most part, you SEO your website and then you wait, and then you create more content and you distribute it and you do your marketing in other places, but it's not like like paid advertising, you can just do your paid ads and you probably will get traffic right away. But with SEO, it takes time to see the efforts, time to see the effects.
Fortunately, though, it also means it's once you are on that SEO path, it's not so much a roller coaster. Don't get me wrong, we also can get smacked over the head when Google decides to make a major change and then decides to roll some of it back. So there can be some of that, but it's not like with ads where when you stop paying, it's done. It's done. Nothing is happening if you stop paying.
Oh, I was going to say the roller coaster. I think some people think they need to learn SEO. That might be the other thing, because if they learn it, then they can do it. But it's really just about figuring out which parts of it really work for your website. And the algorithm changing, it doesn't mean you need to move. You don't need to learn something new every time the algorithm changes, because the core, the foundation basics of SEO is the same. You write for your audience, you make sure your website doesn't have any errors, and you're ready to go. You can't do anything about the algorithm. So I think that's sort of a myth out there that a lot of business owners maybe haven't seen yet either.
Yeah, and I think after the first few years of SEO and Google learning the whole keyword stuffing and people trying to game the system, I've been similar to you where I'm like, it really is talk to the people. And what I often, when I think about mine, because for me and my business, there's SEO happening on a website, there's SEO happening on YouTube, there's SEO pretty much happening everywhere, where how I envision it and how I remember to pay attention to search engine optimization is this idea of nobody around me knows what the heck I'm talking about, and they find the first piece. If that is a YouTube video, if that's a blog post, I can't say, yeah, and to make this happen, what? If I can't see you, if I only hear you or only read you, what is this? What is it? You need to, in my videos, at least for YouTube, I'm assuming on websites it's similar. Haven't dug too much into it lately. Where it's like, be clear in your communication. Don't assume, rather than, hey, click here. No. Click on the button on the top right to make this happen, to really just ensure you are having the right words in it without even having to think about SEO.
And I think people overthink the keywords, quite frankly. Sometimes when you go down a rabbit hole trying to figure out, okay, well, what keywords should I target? There's a lot of different options, and people are afraid of like, oh, am I going to pick the right one? Am I not going to pick the right one? How do I find it? And sometimes it's just going with your gut, and you know what you sell, and you know what questions people ask, so you know what to put on the page. And then, of course, there's some technical things you can do, but I think sometimes our overthinking and our procrastination in trying to be perfect about everything really holds up that piece of it. And it's really just, make it and go. And then that's the other thing too, I think people forget about that I would love to say. And I don't know if you have done this or experienced this, but it's not like you can't correct it. So if you put something out in the world, like a blog post, if you want to reframe it or refresh it or whatever, you can do that. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world if you happen to do something incorrectly. I think almost everything's fixable.
I actually, and I'm sure you have a lot of those stories too, I tested out something on a mediocre blog post. It's like us here, we base everything off of my YouTube training. So I don't write. When we turn those YouTube videos into blogs, and I tested a couple of things with an older blog post. I'm like, yeah, cool. It's kind of driving traffic. And I did a couple of things to it, did a couple of changes, probably like 6 months, 9 months after it was originally posted. It is one of my highest traffic generators right now. Just because I dug into, did a little bit of an update on it, clarified a couple of things. I ended up adding a couple frequently asked questions at the bottom. And now suddenly it's like on my analytics, there's my weekly analytics, best performing blog post. There it is. And it wasn't from
Yeah.
the first get-go. It was only after I dove in and did a couple of tweaks.
Sometimes that works. And I had a client who had a YouTube video on their page. And just from sheer trying to do different things with it to see if they could make it rank better, they took the YouTube off and it ranked better. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think it's those little things that if we just try doing different things, we can see, like you were trying with yours, to see if you could make it go better. I had another, like one of my particular blog posts I have is for photographers and what to write about. And it does pretty well. I mean, it ranks okay. It's not on first page all the time. And I thought, well, what can I do to get it back up? Because it had lost a little bit of ranking over time because I hadn't touched it for a little while. And so I did some changes to it. Like I added some sections. I changed the layout a little bit. What else did I do? I changed it so that the jump link menu up at the top had, instead of just the words to link down to the section, I made it so that it was a drop down, because there were like 20 different sections in this thing, because it was like different sections for each photographer. And then I took and put it into my WordPress theme to make it lay out differently, make it prettier, because the inherent WordPress doesn't allow for a lot of visual effects. And so I tried to do that, and then I lost rank. And I thought, okay, well, this is the exact reason, like you test and you try to do different things. And then I went back a couple weeks later and I took and put it back into WordPress, took it off of Divi or whatever it was, Beaver Builder. And so I took it out of that framework and just left it as the inherent post, and it went back up. However, it was at the same time the big algorithm change happened in mid-August. And I'm like, okay, now I can't tell if it was because of that it went back up, or if it's because of the page change. And so now I got to go back and make changes again just to see like what I can do differently. And I think that's part of it, is like the frustration, or maybe the unknowing of like what to test or what to test, and just the sheer waiting of it and keeping track of it all.
And I've been there where it's like, oh my God, what is the change that can bring traffic, especially with us in the business focusing more on proactive sales rather than just reactive. So lots of sales pages, lots of landing pages, figuring things out, right? Where do you put videos? Where do you not put videos? And I was finally able to get recovering perfectionist over here, right? We want to get everything right, everything perfect, where it became actually a little bit of a game for me. And since then, I've been able to do better with dealing with the roller coaster, because it's like, ooh, so you like this one. Because it's not just then the SEO, it's also the conversion, where it's like, okay, what do people do? And I become kind of stocky, where it's like, okay, you looked at this section for the longest time. Why is that? And I'm just getting curious. Pretty much the same thing what I do here on the podcast. I'm curious about you ladies coming on, and I became curious about my own website and what are people doing on there, and how are they getting there, and what's happening, and really just playing around with that data and having fun with it to stop stressing myself out.
Mm-hmm. What tool do you use for checking out like how they land on the page? Do you use a specific one, or?
I love Lucky Orange.
Okay.
Lucky Orange. I've played around, and when it comes also to digging deeper into the data and all the things. So for everybody listening, there's a whole bunch of tools out there where you can see how far people scroll down on the page. What are they clicking on? It doesn't collect any personal information, so I don't know who Purple Strawberry is. However, I see what's happening on my website, and I've tried Hotjar and I've tried other things, and it's just the interface and how Lucky Orange delivers the information works for me. I know there are so many others out there. Since Google Analytics switched to G4, I haven't invested the time to dig deep into it, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore.
Yeah, it's a tough one to get used to at first, but I do like that they have like events and then key events. So you can have like, for example, I have some downloads on my website that I'll track, but they're not necessarily key events or things that are directly related to my main services. And then I have the key events that are, so I can kind of see like where people are coming from and then what they're doing. So who's downloading a newsletter? Is it people from social? Is it people from YouTube? And I think that helps a lot too. It's hard to remember to go back to it on a monthly basis, but it's very important, I think. And I think the trackability of SEO is a little bit kind of a ghost town as well, just because people think it's kind of like unmeasured. And a lot of the times with like companies, and I'm sure you know this, like they are so about getting the traffic and they're so about getting on the first page, but really what happens after the click? Like that's the whole point of getting organic traffic. And if they don't care about your business, which this is what drives me nuts about some of the people I've worked with, that if they don't care what happens to that traffic afterwards, after that click, then I don't want to work with them. And that's why I think that's important to put out there. So
It's kind of like collecting followers on Instagram and nobody buys from you. When you do all of this work to generate traffic, you want to convert them. You want them to do something.
Exactly.
You're speaking my language. Apparently, I'm going to have to get my feet wet again on Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Fine. Bob just called me out. Fine.
It's fun. Well, they have,
I'll get my feet wet again.
There you go. There's the Data Studio, Google Data Studio. Have you heard of that one?
Yes.
It's now called Looker Studio, of course. Maybe you know that. And so like it's just like the front end, so you can connect it and it can look prettier. But
I use that for my Google Analytics.
So
Google Analytics, my YouTube Analytics, YouTube Analytics.
Yeah.
I get a rundown of all of the videos and how long they are and that kind of stuff. So Looker Studio does that one too. So didn't even think
that's
about
a good one. Mm-hmm. I didn't know you could do YouTube through there. So I'm gonna have to look at that for mine because I didn't know that. So.
I get it's the same kind of like page where I see average video length, because we do a lot of shorts and we do a lot of long form content. The relationship between likes and dislikes, the length of how long. There's a whole bunch of similar to what you probably can do with Google Analytics and Looker. You choose your boxes, your widgets of what you want to see and how, and you get your report through there.
Yeah, I got really stuck to trying to find templates. And I went down a rabbit hole and I ended up like downloading so many templates because there's so many of them out there and they're so good and they have different information and some of them are very visual, which makes it easier as well. But do you ever use Google Search Console?
Yes, when I'm digging into if my stuff actually works right. No, that was Webmaster Tools. I have them all set up. I don't always look into all of them.
That's a good way to check every once in a while too, because you can see your how people are finding your website, like what keywords and what pages you rank on. That's always a fun tool because that's straight from Google. I really look at that one because that kind of tells me, okay, well, is there a trend in traffic that's dropping? So, or is there some keyword that people aren't typing in as much? So there's a lot of stuff you can extract from that free report too in terms of getting traffic from Google.
Love that. Now, on the personal side, now that Little Bob made it all the way into nerding out with people like me and helping them generate organic traffic, how is life nowadays? Just how are you running your business? How are you doing your offers? What has your business allowed you to change in your life and do?
So basically, it's allowed me to do what I wanted it to do, which was work anytime, anywhere. And that was being able to spend time with my family and friends wherever they live. So last August, I was able to finally do that and basically just started going everywhere. And it was really funny because I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was trying to find information about how to nomad, but there really isn't any information. Now, could I have spent more time researching? Probably. I also joined a couple groups that were nomading groups, and I would ask specific questions like, how do people logistically do this? And I didn't really get a lot of answers. People were just like, yeah, we just go over to another country. And at the time when I started,
you got tax implication. Can I take my phone? What's bank accounts? It's like all of the logistics of it.
Yeah. And at the time, when I first wanted to do this, that was my thought, was to go over to like Australia, for example, for like 6 months or a year or something. I didn't even know how long I should do all of this. Like I never brought into my head how this would affect me emotionally, like moving around and everything. So when I left, I just kind of left and just went. And I had this weird feeling like I just had to see everybody right now. Like it was the weirdest, strangest thing. And I really didn't have to do it as fast as I did. I would move like every 2-3 weeks or maybe a month. So I've been doing this for a year. And this place where I'm at now, Minneapolis, is where my parents, my sister, and some of my really good friends live, because this is where I spent most of my younger adult life. And so I've been here for almost 3 months. And this is a good amount of time if I was just traveling around the United States. But I ended up getting a dog a couple years ago. My first one passed away. And I thought when she was gone, I would end up not having a dog so I could go across the pond and go wherever. But then I ended up with my second dog. So we're not going across the pond yet because I'm not prepared to go on a plane with him quite yet. So we just travel around the United States. But it's been interesting because I think the moving in the beginning was super easy for me. Like I literally put everything in storage. And then I kept with me only the things that I needed to use. And so anything that would fit in my car. And that way I could just pack up and come in and sit for a couple weeks, whatever it was. And the excitement of it was so easy. But now I'm like, all right, now I need to be in my own bed. I need to have my own desk. I need to be like in my own space and like nesting and just be. So I'm going to be landing in Arizona in October for at least a year and see how that goes. But I'm still able to work anywhere, right? So I can still go somewhere for a couple weeks if I wanted to, or go to the coffee shop down the street, which is really what I really enjoy, is having the flexibility of the different environments.
Yeah, I've been looking at the idea of digital nomading for years. If that is van life, if that is staying with friends, whatever it is. And I'm like, I like to have my home base. So it actually looks like next year, Austin, having that as a home base, because that's where my partner's second community is. I am not moving to Michigan. I'm sorry, I love you, but they have seasons. They have seasons.
Yeah, that's why I don't live here anymore.
Not doing it.
It's too cold.
You
too
love
cold.
it there, you stay there.
Yeah.
And so that way, him up in Michigan, me in Austin, he's not going to have to spend any Airbnb when he comes into town for his trainings and all the things. I can pop up to Michigan without a problem. We still have that home base. And I had the same thing. I had my dog for 14 years and everybody is like, so are you going to get a new dog? I'm like, no, I've been taking care of my late husband, then the ex, and then the dog. It's like, I've been literally taking care of others for the last 14 years. I love Bailey. I do not regret a minute of any of this. But now I can grab a suitcase and just go. That's a little bit different, but yeah, I get I totally understand this. I want a home base and I want to have my bed and my things, and then just go for a few weeks.
So I tried it. I did it. It's what I wanted, so that's okay. Or that's what I intended, not what I wanted. That was what I intended. So yeah.
And it's like, it's amazing to me how easily you and others can do it. It's like, my brain is going down a checklist. I'm like, am I going to have to do this? How do I do this? I'm like, holy cannoli. Yeah. I'm like, Evie, you're completely overthinking this. Take a breather.
I think that's what saved me, because technically I would have overthought it till I wasn't going to go. And then at the time I was in a relationship and that was ending. And so the rental place was ending. So it was like, that was what was happening. I feel like the universe was like, okay, go.
I'm like, you've been thinking about this long enough. I'm making it happen now. Go.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly.
And for anybody and everybody, I know you have a goodie for my audience too that can get them started a little bit on their website marketing.
So I have a free PDF, and it is a 5-part workbook. It's not as icky as it sounds. It is called the Website Marketing Starter Kit, and it's simply just to get you started into the idea of getting Google traffic. So it goes very easily through all the steps. So selecting a keyword and how easily to do it, how to work on a blog post, how to enhance it, how to establish authority and trust with Google, and then to how to distribute it. So it goes through every single piece, and it's actually pretty fun. I actually printed one because I might actually send it to some people. So it's kind of fun to have a hard copy, but there's a digital that people can download. So
I like it. I might just gonna have to snatch that for myself too, making sure I did all the things that I should be doing.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us. Guys,
thanks for having me.
Listening, watching, you know what's coming. Have you subscribed yet? If not, what are you doing? I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.